Ian Rappaport, our insider, reported today that the Titans are focused on re-signing Ryan Tannehill. The tag deadline has been extended to Monday. Just going to combine these two stories. We will find out if the Titans tag Ryan Tannehill by Monday. But in the meantime, they are reportedly focused on re-signing Tannehill. Does this quiet your Tom Brady to the Titans thoughts, Chris Wesley?
Well, Rap Sheet said this is their priority. Their top priority is to bring Ryan Tannehill back. So, yes, that does, by definition, quiet concerns that Tom Brady would be replacing him. And I think as much as we see Tom Brady connected to teams like the Titans and the 49ers, you have to kind of question whether he fits those offenses and what the plays they kind of run. Play action, boot action, movement in the pocket. Does he fit those offenses like the quarterbacks who are already in place in those cities?
I agree with that assessment, especially with Ryan Tannehill wants to be there. The chemistry and the magic that they formulated once he was inserted into the lineup, that's something you can't necessarily replicate, even as great as Tom Brady is. If you were to go there just sort of out of a vacuum or in the vacuum, Ryan Tannehill coming in reminded me a lot of the Case Keenum situation in Minnesota. They thought they could upgrade with Kirk Cousins. Hasn't necessarily worked out that way by getting a guy who seems to be an upgrade. So if they can build on that magic, that chemistry into the 2020 season, then I think
Omar making himself an enemy of kissing Cousins' corner. These guys love Kirk Cousins.
I don't love Kirk Cousins.
Not representative of our feelings on Kirk Cousins.
That's not the
I mean, he's an upgrade from Case Keenum. Let's count.
Sure.
I would say this for a lot of this, you're a free agent. Everyone wants to match you with new landing spots and teams. And if I'm the Titans and I look at Tannehill, or if I'm Ryan Tannehill, or if I'm looking at Derrick Henry, or I'm Derrick Henry, the best landing spot is right where you were last year, because I just don't simply trust Ryan Tannehill suddenly going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or fill in the blank Team X. The Titans worked with these two guys for a reason. I would hate to see either one of them try to duplicate last year somewhere else. They're both risky somewhere else.
Right, and I know Ian's right that he's their first priority, but to me, what does that mean? Is he their first priority at a certain price? That's how I would assume that it is.
But doesn't priority mean that they want to get it done? That's what priority means.
Absolutely, they want to get it done. They could get it done if they wanted to just pay him $30 million a year. I'm sure it'd be done today. So it's figuring out what the right price is, and is there a price that's, too much, too rich for their blood, where they start going in on Brady. To me, the tag deadline being changed to Monday probably affects the Titans more than any team. The Cowboys are in there too, because I just think they kind of have to declare what they're doing. I would imagine they're going to use their tag on Derrick Henry. And to me, that tells you, yeah, Ryan Tannehill, you're our priority, but we at least are comfortable in the uncertainty of what's going to happen Monday and Tuesday, that we have some other plans if we can't get you signed.
I just don't understand. Does Tannehill have any leverage to me, what other team is going to go after Ryan Tannehill?
No one's attached him to any team. Have you heard anything, Omar?
I haven't heard anything with Tannehill as far as outside teams, but I think you saying Derrick Henry being maybe the focus of that tag speaks to whoever at quarterback of the Titans is next year. It's going to be a run-first team still. Derrick Henry's still going to be, the ball carrier, and he is the reason. And that offense, for what he does to it, is why it's so attractive. Whether it's Ryan Tannehill, whether it's Tom Brady, Derrick Henry being the centerpiece of that offense.
Yeah, I think you can't discount the stats Tannehill put up are just outrageous.
I mean, who could use a 117 passer rating?
Right. I mean, it's hard to overlook that.
But Wes, do you agree that if he just went somewhere else, like a team trying to just find a quarterback
Tampa,
to plug
maybe.
in? I like bringing the whole Titans thing back for another year.
While we're on Tampa and Brady, the Tampa Bay Times is reporting just now that the Bucs are all in, quote, on Tom Brady.
Well, and we just did an NFL Network hit where we talked about teams that are going to be over-celebrated if they do certain things in the offseason. I brought up the Bucs because if you ever put Brady into Tampa Bay and they have their shiny new uniforms and everything else you got going on there, look out for the songs being sung about the Bucs.
A nice young defense.
And everyone makes the comparison, Phil Rivers as potentially a landing spot there in Florida with Bruce Arians, the way Arians resurrected a late Carson Palmer career. Imagine what he could do with Tom Brady.
It's a very different fit in terms of the offense that he plays in, but Arians played with Manning, and the only thing I'd push back with you, Wes, on if the Titans took Brady, I think any team that takes Brady you're running the Tom Brady offense. I mean, you are just choosing.
I don't think that. I think Derrick Henry is the Titans' offense.
Right. No, I get
found
it.
That out.
It'd be a huge risk for the Titans to change things. But wherever Tom Brady goes, you are going to change things and do things in a way that Tom Brady wants to do it, that suits his skill set.
Why would you do that with a 43-year-old quarterback?
Because that's the best way to make him at his best. Why bring him in unless you're going to let him do what he does?
What is his best now?
I think, picking out matchups before the snap.
Right. I mean, what is his best quality? How high is his ceiling right now? Can he lift your offense? Because he did not lift the Patriots' offense.
But wouldn't you say that part of Brady being wooed by another team and the discussions around that, or that Brady's involvement and creation of the attack will be immense versus just taking someone else's playbook?
That's all I'm saying. And with the Bucs, I think the upside would be a better than average starting NFL quarterback that limits mistakes and can kind of manage the game, for lack of I hate that phrase, but that's part of it.
Well, especially with the Buccaneers and those 30 turnovers last year, I think they've emphasized ever since the season ended that this season would have been dramatically different had they prevented those turnovers. So even just limiting those would be a huge victory for the Buccaneers in 2020, regardless.
And it's a very Bruce Arians move.
And then you talk about Tom Brady with Mike Evans and the weapons that they have there. It's a whole different ball game than what he was tempting to have lifted in New England this past season.
That would be fun. It would be a good spot for Stidham Corner to step up and step in. And
of all the impressive things Tom Brady's done in his career, one of the most impressive I've seen is the way people have handled his value this offseason. After what he did last year in that offense.
I think it's fair, but I think he was a mid-level starting quarterback last year, and was about the same when they won the Super Bowl for stretches. And for the Bucs, for the Titans, that could have a lot of value. No 43-year-old quarterback has ever started a season, so who knows? Maybe it'll be a total bust.
Uncharted territory.
Who's not continuing his great career, unlike Tom Brady? Marshall Yonder has retired after 13 seasons. Gonna be a Ring of Honor guy in Baltimore, they already have said, and could be a Hall of Fame type of guy in 5 years or more. Marshall Yonder, part of those Ravens teams that gave you nightmares. Mark Sessler.
Gave me nightmares? I mean,
yeah. You don't like the Ratbirds.
No, I'm not. No, I wanted to trade them in for an under-the-continent train system that would go to
And Yonder was kind
of
symbolic of their rugged ways this decade.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
what I'm saying.
I'm not probably the first person on the planet that should be grading offensive guards as Hall of Fame entries, but I don't know what more you need to do in terms of consistency. He's just been someone you can rely on every single year. They weren't all his best seasons, but Yonder feels like HOF scenario candidate
big time.
to me.
Yeah. And I'm surprised he's actually walking away with Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram and everything that they accomplished last year in the running game. It seems like one of those offenses that an offensive lineman would love to perform in. And Marshall Yonder kind of walking away, I think, speaks more to the fact that he wants to be healthy and go out on his terms and maybe.
And how brutal it is to play guard at the level I think that he was playing.
He was easy choice for all decade for my list that I did about a month ago, and I'm sure he'll be on the official one that they come out with, probably with Zach Martin, I would imagine.
I think he'll probably be the favorite. I'm trying to think of who else could be in there. Yonda should get it.
Joel Bitonio has been very good, but on bad teams and off the radar.
Probably not quite to the level.
And not maybe for the whole decade.
There was a good story someone sent out. Was it Kevin Von Valkenburg is his name? Yesterday of covering Yonda as a rookie. Chris McAllister once brought a taser into the locker room, and he put $500 down, and he said whoever wants to tase themselves gets the $500. And then other players were like, yeah, and started throwing a ton of money in there, and Yonda just walked up there. Apparently he grew up on farms, and he knew that wasn't even a police grade taser, that it would be no problem for him, and he just because he knew enough about tasers and just did it, and everyone
I would get
lost
tased
their
in
mind.
2 seconds for a
and then they were like, did he
Do it.
really do it? Did he really do it? And
he
just did it again just to prove him wrong.
He said on the farm they had electrical fences, and he was used to that, so.
Get you a little locker room respect.
Monday Night Football, Tony Romo, all the speculation of who's going to be announcing where throughout the offseason. It's really Dan's corner. I feel bad even talking about it without him here. I really do.
You know, I feel bad about is Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland.
Yeah,
all this talk about.
We've talked about that too.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate for those two, but hey, we're just reporting the news, and the latest is Andrew Marchand of the New York Post says the NBC is saying no to an Al Michaels getting traded to ESPN deal. So that solution, which seems fun, I guess will not happen.
It just surprises me because of the Mike Tirico factor, where it was such an easy transition to someone that has been kind of backbenched unnecessarily. In that article, there was one line that stood out to me because they mentioned Kurt Warner as someone in there in the mix if Manning didn't go, but that said internally ESPN has toyed with the idea of a booth with Steve Levy, Louis Riddick, and Brian Greasy, who did the second Monday night game a year ago. That's just if all this stuff falls apart, and it looks like it's falling apart, that could be a trio to look at.
They were good. I like Louis Riddick. I don't love a 3-man booth. I just think I would pick just Louis Riddick. Just do, it's like I think if you're asking people to do something they haven't done before and then it's 3 people, I'm good with little Levy and Riddick. Sorry, Brian Green.
On our 4-person podcast, that is the comment.
Well, we go on forever. Yeah, that's fair.
But I think with Al Michaels, I think he wants to see this NBC Super Bowl in L.A., his hometown, and I think that will be his swan song, and the official baton will have been passed after that. So I think it's probably more his call than anything to turn that trade down.
Yeah, that's true.
Knowing that not this season's Super Bowl, but the following will be on NBC, and he'll have it here in Los Angeles.
Dude,
What was
his
ESPN
home.
putting on the table as trade bait?
I don't know.
Like, what's the incentive for NBC to even think about
Like
this?
some of that
if there's
taser
Steamboat
cash.
Willie
We'll
last
give you
time, what would be
15.
this
We'll
one?
give you 15 minutes of Stephen A. Smith on Football Night in America. Put him next to
Florio?
Florio, and that'd be fun. Tirico, things just go crazy.
Did you say Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think who are their most valuable assets right now. Stephen A. Smith is the meter.
God, no.
Stephen
Don't
A.
even
Stephen
put
A.
that out
Stephen
there
A.
in the world, Greg.
Saw Skip
Well, they
Bayless at
put
the
him on
mall,
the
by
Oscar
the way,
coverage.
over the
Did you see
weekend,
that?
so.
Wait, what?
I think Stephen A. Smith was on some sort of Oscar coverage, right? Just try to maximize ABC, ESPN.
Wow.
Just trying to get as much, for
He
his
can do
buck
it.
as
He can
possible.
do it all.
So we need more disingenuousness from TV reporters.
Finally, the Patriots lead the way. I don't know if we have to talk too much about this with compensatory picks. They had 4 of them, including they were the only team with 2 third-round picks in compensatory announcements. Trent Brown, I believe, was one of the ones they picked up for.
The Ravens have traditionally kicked everyone's butt in compensatory picks because they figured out the formula a long time ago, and they have said it's like they guard that secret like it's Coke's formula, but it factors in salary, playing time, postseason honors, and whether the team has lost more free agents than they've signed.
Right. And mostly in terms of like the ledger of who you sign, who you don't, that kind of decides how many picks, and then how well they played or how much they did decides where the picks are. And the Patriots are like the Ravens are a team. I think the Patriots have the second or third most ever, and the Ravens
Packers
first.
have second.
And the Patriots, they wait until the day after they're no longer included in the formula, and then they sign some free agents.
It's because I always thought, it just seems like the Ravens constantly have like endless, high third, fourth round comp picks, which is, as a Browns fan, utterly, because you look at some of these comp picks. Dak Prescott came through a comp pick. Mike Daniels, Kyle Juszczyk, guys like Aaron Jones, James Conner, our guy Burgo, Jeremy Bergman put together a top 10 players that were pulled through comp picks, and there's a pretty amazing list. The Ravens since 2011 have had 20. Since 2011, the Packers, I think, were next with 17. New England 10. But then you look at teams like the Bears and Jags, they've had 1 each since 2011, which tells me you're
20,
not.
That's 20 players. I saw a different list that went back even further, and I think the Ravens had 53, and the Saints were the bottom with 10. I mean, that's 40 players they got an extra swing at.
They signed Mark Ingram and Earl Thomas and still got a third and a fourth rounder compensatory picks. That's
Right,
how good the Ravens are at
that,
this.
of that equation. Yeah, 52 since 94. But that also speaks.
It's huge for the Patriots. They need some young players. And those are 2 kind of very late third-round picks.
Does that speak a lot to developing and drafting and letting the guys walk? It's kind of the system.
It's almost like you have too much talent. Like you have to let guys go, and and they're good at.
They're good players.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, What are you saying? What's the sell for the Bears and the Jags that have won?
We've talked about almost everyone, it feels like, but what are some people maybe we haven't? Just like underrated, overlooked, Ruizian type figures entering free agency. It could be players, it could be GMs, people that haven't gotten a lot of attention that could be factors.
Well, I would say, from the GM standpoint, I want to see how Dave Caldwell navigates that salary cap, hell that they seem to be in right now, given the fact that he has autonomy once again, with Coach Coughlin gone and kind of everything that he loomed in that organization. So,
hasn't gone that well when he did have autonomy.
And that's right, and he's still around, and I think that's the sort of point to it. This is, I'm sure, his last chance to kind of resurrect whatever hope he might have down the road.
I don't know. I'm never sure. He's stuck around here. They've had one season over 6 wins while he's been there, and he's still there.
Still there, yeah. So I mean, I think seeing how he navigates this, will be interesting.
Jaguars are interesting in general. Like, what are they gonna do? Because they cannot rebuild. It's not like they're rebuilding, but they're gonna be very active.
Mm-hmm. And then I think from a player's perspective, I want to see like Blake Martinez, Joe Schobert, how the middle linebackers do this time around, because remember, I think there was a couple years where it seemed like the linebacker position was getting devalued, and then C.J. Mosley comes along last year and kind of resets the market, and then Bobby Wagner surpasses that even. Will that have a trickle-down effect? I don't think any of those guys this year are as good as those guys, but how does the market conform to the numbers that were set last year? Are they beneficiaries of that being in that maybe second tier? And Martinez was second only to Bobby Wagner in tackles this year, so I think he kind of emerged there in Green Bay, and Schobert's been a playmaker, for a number of years.
It gave me pause. The Browns did not show any interest in re-signing Schobert at what apparently his request is.
I don't know if there's any middle linebacker out there that's going to get paid big money. I don't think those two guys will. We talked about Christian Kirksey, who's maybe a little bit more of an off-ball guy.
My guy Nick Kwiatkowski.
We put Kirksey at the very bottom of our top 101. We did not put Rashad Jones on our top 101, who was cut by the Dolphins.
A 32-year-old box safety?
Right.
No.
He's had a great career, but he's not going to make it. Jonathan Joseph also we learned today he'll hit free agency, but there's a lot of depth. But not a lot of big names at middle linebacker. Who do you got for an underrated, Wes?
We've been trained over the last, I think, half decade or so to devalue nose tackles in today's NFL. And I think Javon Hargrave and DJ Reader are going to get paid. I think Hargrave is a guy especially who came into the league as a guy like the quintessential anchor guy. You're not moving him. And over the last couple of years, he's developed into a pass rusher too. And Mike Tomlin will tell you, do not think this guy is a one-dimensional run stuffer. He's getting after quarterbacks. And I think Hargrave is a guy who's going to get a lot of interest.
I like Reader.
Reader too. It seems like he might already be headed to the Broncos. I don't know.
Stole my that was my first thing. Hargrave Reader. I mean, we just like the big uglies up front. We're real.
Well, Reader's a guy too who was a run stuffer, and he's gotten better at pass rushing, and he has J.J. Watt's endorsement as the best nose guard in the league.
Hargrave was awesome last year. You can put him on a 2-man line or a 3-man line. I will not forget his run in the playoffs when they made the AFC Championship and got blown out against the Patriots. He was their best defensive lineman. Granted, it's a small sample. At the end of that season, there were some injuries there. He also gave the Patriots all sorts of problems in that game. Didn't matter. Your nose tackle's only going to do so much when your secondary's letting people wide open. But he, on a pretty talented defense, Javon Hargrave was the guy who was kind of standing out the most, and then he really built on it. His best season was a year ago. It's really an awesome.
Where are those guys on your 101 list?
They are right around 30. Hargrave is 30, and DJ Reader is 28. In hindsight, I wish I put Hargrave even a little higher than that.
I had him high.
I think Wes had him higher. I might have made that mistake, but I like them both. Reader a little bit more of just like a run stuffer, but he can rush the passer too. There's a million good defensive linemen. It's like the only position where there's a lot of good players.
Well, you could say Robert Quinn and Jason Pierre-Paul qualify for this if we're talking about what they did last year.
Yeah.
And the way they looked compared to 2 or 3 years ago, they both looked quicker, more explosive. Quinn was getting to the backfield all the time, and JPP was getting multiple quarterback hits every game.
I'd throw in Everson Griffin if he actually becomes a free agent. The Vikings seem confident that they'll be able to re-sign him, but he is a free agent, and he's another guy. I don't know what it is. I guess it's just all athletes age better than they used to, but especially it seems like some of the linemen used to fall apart in terms of their bodies a little faster, but now you're seeing a lot of left tackles playing until their late 30s.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're seeing these pass rushers who are 32, 33 years old. And, like, Everson Griffin got it done last year.
Well, we don't have the league where, like, the guy in the middle of the defensive line weighs 380 pounds and has, like, 5 beer bellies. I mean, these guys are just – right. They're, like – they're treating their body.
No one's working as, like, an accountant in the off season or, like,
no.
An actual Green Bay Packer.
I'll give you one that I want to see it before I believe it, but – You mentioned for the last decade or whatever, we've done X, Y, and Z. I've completely looked beyond this front office year after year in free agency because their mantra is essentially go into deep slumber whenever players are available on the open market. We'll do nothing but just build our own roster, blah, blah, blah. I think that the Bengals, you hear whispers this time around with Duke Tobin, but Mike Brown has to sign off on all this, and he's been the issue, I think, in terms of growing your roster the way that 98% of the rest of the league does. If it's true that they're going to be active for the first time and you're going to have Joe Burrow at quarterback, the Bengals, to me, they've got cap room. They are an interesting team going into next season, but the first step is a front office that we just assume will do nothing, doing the opposite for once. And that doesn't mean go sign one left guard. They have issues on their offensive line. They have to be aggressive like some of these other teams. They have issues in other places, too.
These linebackers we mentioned, the Bengals are a team that is desperately in need of linebackers.
Mm-hmm. That would be fast. I would love to see it. I'd love to see a competitive a Bengals team. I'm going to go a couple overlooked position groups quickly. Safety. A lot of safeties. Not just Justin Simmons. Von Bell, Anthony Harris, Devin McCourty, HaHa Clinton-Dix is a pretty solid player. Rodney McLeod. You go up and Carl Joseph is out there. If you need a safety, there's actually a decent amount available. And then running backs, it's not a deep class of running back, but I just feel like no one even talks about running backs anymore. And to me, Melvin Gordon would be a nice addition to a team at the right price. Like if the Bills added Melvin Gordon to Devin Singletary,
I like that.
And that's a 1-2 combo. Like I was trying to think, what are the Bills going to do? Because I think they're going to do something. I think they're going to want to add a running back. Kenyon Drake is out there too and is interesting. The Texans are a team that are probably looking for a running back, but Gordon's a good play when he's rolling, especially if you have someone with him. I think he'd be a good.
I think last year also probably to an overextended degree gives you a bad taste when it comes to Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
It was the holdout, he comes back, and then the whole offense is not as effective with him in there. But you forget when he's good, he's been awesome. I would say with Kenyon Drake, Steve Keim and the Cardinals too, because you're in year 2 of Cliff Kingsbury, and they don't have a ton of cap room, but they have enough to get closer to completing the offensive roster that Kingsbury would want. I think at wide receiver, we mentioned this on our last show, that there are, you're rolling out 4 wideout sets snap after snap, but you don't have 4 proven wideouts, and you're going to hit it in the draft, but you're also going to hit it in free agency. So I think they're going to be active because they can't float into next September with an unfinished offense the way they did last time.
And I think, speaking of the Cardinals, that they're one of those sneaky teams that there's buzz going about them as being a destination. That players want to be at. And I think Kyler Murray's presence obviously speaks volumes of that, and Cliff Kingsbury implementing the system in year 2 and what potential takeoff that could have.
These guys talk to each other, all these players,
yes.
so that matters.
Maybe like the heat there could just help wipe out the coronavirus. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so hot there that would be not a place. It's
a side benefit.
Don't check the
Right.
science on this.